Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my initial comparison between Jayson Tatum's first two signature shoes of his signature shoe line, right? So of course we got the Jordan Tatum one right over here, which was a super nice performer. I did like it, especially because it was so dang lightweight, but it did have a couple of issues with durability and also support, right? But the Tatum 2 just came out, and this is his second shoe. Of course, it retails for 125 bucks, and yeah, so they did increase the price by $5, which kind of does suck, but $5 isn't too big of an issue. But of course the Tatum 1 is quite old, but it is on sale for like 72 to like 80 bucks right now. So if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave the affiliate link in the description box, and if you do buy the shoes from that link, it does help me out, so I appreciate that. Thank you guys for the support as always. But let's get it started right off with the tracciones, and the traction is kind of similar in that there are pods, you know what I mean? So we got two pods here of rubber actually here in the Tatum 1s, and also we got two pods, or I guess kind of three if you count this, but mainly two pods for the forefoot and here in the heel for the Tatum 2. So I guess that's a little bit similar, but as far as the overall kind of like traction pattern and how it looks, it is quite different, right? So the Tatum 1, because they want to shed off a lot of weight from the Tatum 1, they're not using a whole lot of rubber, right? Rubber is actually pretty dang heavy, so they only added two pods here in the forefoot. But yeah, how's the traction in the Tatum 1? The traction is pretty dang good. It does pick up a little bit of dust, which does suck, but overall if you're playing on a clean court, you do have a nice bite, and it has a little bit of a squeak. You know, but here in the Tatum 2, just trying it on my wood floors, there is a pretty nice bite, a pretty nice stop, but it definitely doesn't stop as hard as the Tatum 1, you know, so we'll have to see on how it breaks in, especially once I actually play in it, but for my first impression, just trying it on my wood floors, it doesn't seem as good of a bite as a Tatum 1, right? But also, hopefully it doesn't pick up as much dust, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why, but it was affected by dust a little bit here in the Tatum 1, but the Tatum 2, I don't know, we'll have to see, but look at all the dog hair and stuff. I don't know if it's coming out on camera, but there is a good amount of dust and stuff, so I am a little bit worried about that, you know? And as far as durability goes, I mean, obviously the rubber is really hard here for the pods, but obviously we don't have any rubber on anywhere else on the shoe, so the durability definitely wasn't great here for the Tatum 1. The Tatum 2 definitely feels like it'll be a little bit better. You know, the grooves are thick, it's deeper, and the rubber is way harder here in the Tatum 2, so durability will be better for the Tatum 2 overall for the entire shoe too, you know, not just for the rubber outsole, but for everything. You know, it feels way more durable and supportive and sturdy than the Tatum 1, which we'll get into, right? So there is a traction there. Moving on to the heel to toe transition, they both feel pretty dang smooth and nice, but it's just a little bit different here in the forefoot, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice rounded shape, and also we have a fully exposed pretty much midsole here in the Tatum 2, so that allows for a little bit of compression. It's soft. This is basically the same thing here in the Tatum 1, right? And then moving here into the forefoot, we have a nice curved shape, and then here in the Tatum 2, we have a nice curved shape as well. However, the Tatum 1, look at this, right? Look at how much it flexes, and it's more in the in the midfoot, like in the middle of the outsole, not as much in the forefoot, but it's still pretty flexible in the forefoot as well, right? So it just first of all, torsional support and torsional rigidity is not as good, but just feels a lot more flexible and not as sturdy feeling, right? Now obviously that's not a bad thing, you know, it depends on what type of shoe and what type of feel you want from your hoop shoe, but this is more just like a more like super flexible shoe. And then here in the Tatum 2, it still is able to flex, right? But I'm putting a lot more force into it, right? I can't even flex it with one finger, right? It's not flexing, but here in the Tatum 1, look at this. I can literally flex it with one finger, so that's how much sturdier this shoe feels. So like I said, it all depends on what type of feeling you want from your hoop shoes, but this is a little bit more sturdy, right? And also feels like it'll have a little bit more spring back to it, you know? So there's that. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushioning setup definitely did change up a good amount, but I guess the only thing that's pretty similar is the heel, right? So the heel, they both have a little bit of compression. It's soft, it feels nice, and also the court feel is pretty dang similar as well. They're both really nice for court feel. I would say if I'm nitpicking, the Tatum 1 feels just a tiny bit lower to the ground, but nonetheless it feels very similar for court feel as well. But that's kind of like the only thing, right? So of course here in the Tatum 1, we got this very large surface area of a zoom unit. It's not super thick, but it's very, very large. It pretty much encompasses the entire forefoot. It feels bouncy, you know, and you guys remember how it was kind of like levitating, kind of like over the zoom unit. So that feels really nice. It feels bouncy in the forefoot, and it feels great. But here in the Tatum 2, they're using a full length air strobel unit, and it feels really nice as well. So in the forefoot, I would say, you know, it feels pretty similar, you know. It definitely feels like there's a little bit more compression and also a little bit more bounce in the forefoot from the actual zoom unit, but the Tatum 2 still feels nice. But of course, it is full length air strobel here in the Tatum 2, so the heel feels nice as well. So the overall step and comfort feels a little bit better, but also the Tatum 2 is really nice. Like if you look underneath the insole, we have kind of like a, I don't know what it is, like a cloth strobe board or something like that, you know? And because of that, it is still pretty dang soft and allows for a little bit of compression and underfoot cushioning in the heel too. So that feels pretty nice in the Tatum 1 too, but the Tatum 2 is obviously better in the heel for underfoot cushioning. But in my personal opinion so far, I do like the full length air strobel unit in the Tatum 2 a little bit better than the Tatum 1, right? So there's that. Moving on to the upper. So they changed up the upper a lot. So here in the Tatum 1, we have this mesh material. It's really, really thin. Also, another thing that I liked about it is that it's very, very good for ventilation. There's a lot of airflow to this, right? It conforms to your foot very well and all that, but of course, it's not super supportive because, I mean, it doesn't stretch that much, but it just like, it moves around a good amount, you know what I mean? So because of that, it didn't feel super supportive for the upper as well. But here in the Tatum 2, they just changed it up and we have this really nice textile material. It feels almost like canvas a little bit, right? And it feels very sturdy. It feels even a little stiff, you know what I mean? But I definitely feel like this will break in very nicely, but it just feels a lot more sturdy, right? It doesn't move around as much either, so it feels a lot more supportive as well, while being still pretty dang thin, right? It conforms to my foot pretty dang well too. Still, obviously not as well as this mesh material, but I like the more supportive feel here in the Tatum 2, right? And also for quality, it feels better, and it feels a lot better for durability too. This upper will definitely last a lot longer than the mesh material found in the Tatum 1, right? Also, in the tongue, we have I like the same amount of padding. It's just like an average amount of padding. They're both half booty construction tongues as well, giving you a better overall 1-to-1 fit. But here in the ankle area, the Tatum 2 definitely has more padding, right? The Tatum 2 here in the ankle feels really cozy, very, very comfortable, which I do like. The Tatum 1, it still has a nice bit of padding, but it's not as cozy, it's not as well padded, which I don't like as much. So yeah, the Tatum 2 definitely feels way better for the upper. It just does everything better, you know, while still being pretty thin still. It feels way more supportive, but also cozier as well here in the back of the shoe. Feels like it'll be more durable and all that. So there's that. Moving on to the fit. So I went up half a size for both of these shoes, but the Tatum 2 definitely fits me a little bit better. The Tatum 1, there's a little bit of length, and because of this softer mesh material, it doesn't feel as supportive, and it feels like, you know, the fit is a little bit roomier in the toe box because of that. But because of this sturdier, kind of stiffer textile material for the Tatum 2, it just doesn't move around as much and feels a lot better for fit for me, even though I did go the same exact size, right? Also, the Tatum 2 feels like it runs a little bit shorter, but not by much, you know what I mean? So if you want a really snug fit lengthwise, then go true to size for both of the shoes, but just keep in mind it'll be a little bit more snug here in the Tatum 2 for the toe box, right? But yeah, the Tatum 2 definitely does fit me better. So there is the fit there. Moving on to the support and lockdown. Yeah, so the Tatum 1, it was good for support as far as like lateral containment goes, like my foot not coming out of the footbed, right? Because, you know, we got this frame, we got the foam coming up acting as sidewall right here on the forefoot, midfoot. But because of this material and because of how much this flexes, right? And how, look at that, you know what I mean? Because of that, it didn't feel as supportive to me, you know? Which of course, I mean, I'm a lighter dude too, so if you're a heavier guy, you're definitely gonna feel a lot more, right? But here in the Tatum 2, you know, we have these crazy counters, right? So this is gonna prevent your foot from coming out of the footbed, of course, so your foot is not coming out of the footbed, but also because of how much sturdier this upper feels, it feels like my foot is locked into the shoe, contained into the shoe a little bit more right now, right? So definitely the Tatum 2 does feel more supportive. We'll have to see, let's see which shoe is wider. For lateral stability, it's around the same, right? It's around the same. You know, I don't really have any issues with the Tatum 1, so I probably won't have any issues with the Tatum 2. So lateral stability feels good in both of the shoes. And of course, the Tatum 1 was a little bit higher of a cut. This is a little bit more of a mid cut, but it's pretty similar. Yeah, not the best for ankle support, but overall, the Tatum 2, because of its stiffer sole, and also like it doesn't bend at all here in the midfoot, and this more supportive upper, this shoe just feels a lot more supportive and a lot sturdier than the Tatum 1, right? And now moving on to the weight of the shoe. So the Tatum 2 is supposed to be Jordan Brand's lightest shoe, which we'll have to check, of course, but that's what they were saying in their tech specs, and it's their lightest shoe in their lineup right now. Yeah, 12.1 ounces. So that is a little bit lighter than average. The average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So it's still like lighter, but it's not super light. You know what I mean? The Tatum 1 is super light. It's 10.8 ounces, right? So it's like what? 1.3 ounces lighter, which is a pretty significant difference. And it definitely does feel lighter. It feels a lot more minimal as well. And a lot more like smooth feeling for the shoe. You know what I mean? So it's just a different feel, you know what I mean? And for the overall design, it's just crazy how much they changed it up from the Tatum 1, just like how the shoe feels. So maybe Tatum played in the Tatum 1 and was like, I want something a little bit more supportive, a little bit sturdier feeling, and then that's what they did here in the Tatum 2, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, usually, you know, if you look at Kobe's, if you look at Kyrie's, they feel very similar, they perform very similarly as well. But the Tatum 1 from the Tatum 2 is feeling pretty dang different, you know. So there's that. Moving on to the aesthetics, what do you guys think looks better? I'm definitely have to go with the Tatum 1. I really like how this shoe looks. The Tatum 2 definitely is growing on me, however. You know, just not a huge fan of this asymmetrical sunglasses on the side, you know, but it definitely is growing on me, and because I have it in person, in hand, it just looks a lot better to me as well, as opposed to the picture. So tell us what you guys think looks better down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yeah, the Tatum 2 is feeling a lot better than the Tatum 1 in my personal opinion, right? And the two main things I didn't like about the Tatum 1 was, you know, of course, the support and also the durability. This shoe does not feel durable at all, especially because it's not using rubber. The upper doesn't feel very durable. It's just like a super flimsy feeling shoe, you know, comparing it to the Tatum 2. So yeah, I'm liking the Tatum 2 overall so far better. The only thing I am worried about, of course, is the traction. Is the traction going to be good? Like I said, just on my wood floors, it doesn't feel like it has the best bite. But you know, that's about it. And still, it's a light shoe. Like 12.1 ounces is still pretty dang light for the Tatum 2. Is just not super light, you know. So anyways, that about concludes this comparison video. So far, I'm liking the Tatum 2 a good amount more than Tatum 1. And of course, again, if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave the link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.